So we see now we are loading up into the game. First ban, first pick is sitting with Moscow 5, and they remove Nocturne from the pool. Not, unusual, but when you consider their first pick, they don't want to deal with Nocturne if they want to lock somebody else in first time around.
And this is just standard bans from Moscow 5. They ban what they don't like. There might be, occasionally, and this is very rare to see it happen, an enemy champion that they see do well, and it's so strong, they're just like, screw it, get out. When that does happen, when that ban does go down on a targeted character, that is weird for Moscow 5. So they ban what they don't like. I actually love this ban style because they're focusing on their own team composition. It matches the way they play. Absolute Legends, they're going to go more standard. They're going to get rid of Urgot, maybe get rid of Soraka too. Just get rid of strong characters that are hard to deal with in general. Maybe some targeted bans for Moscow 5, but Moscow 5 is really hard to target. Like, there is no consistent play, aside from the Urgot, which they made famous way back when.
And of course, Genja on Urgot, just like you mentioned, making him famous, really pulling that sort of tanky DPS into the limelight and going for survivability over, burst damage, and another jungle ban. Removing Nautilus, removing all of that crowd control, the slow, the knockups, etc. Moscow 5 just not wanting to deal with it. And I wonder if that Nautilus ban has something to do with Cyanide's performance last night, because he played a phenomenal Nautilus. Literally ran rampant against M5. And, it's a strong champion, especially once he starts snowballing his team.
He's got some of the best ganks in the game. And actually, I think you're right. I think a lot of this does have to do with the game last night. I mean, Nautilus and Nocturne, two really strong early game gankers, and that is something that they had to deal with, that they had trouble with against Darien. So Darien keeping protected by these bans, and just, Nautilus is a strong character. I mean, Hotshot GG, for example, and CLG North America has taken to him, and despite not being that experienced at jungle, he's really good with them. He gets kills because it's so easy to set up a kill with Nautilus. You land a dredge line, you land a slow, then you have a root. You just have so much crowd control. It's insane.
And the thing that's interesting to note that you were mentioning it, giving Darien a bit of protection up in that top line. What we've seen last night from Fnatic is they camped Genja, over and over, consistently tower diving, actually having Xpeka coming in from the bottom tri-bush, coming behind the tower, behind enemy lines, in conjunction with Cyanide, to do a 3-man, 4-man gank on that tower. So, if they, Moscow 5 have learned from this and going to avoid that huge amount of aggression, it's going to play to their favor. But it does look like they've locked in Shen, and I wonder if that's going to be given to Darien in the top lane, or if Diamond Prox has been practicing him in the jungle.
It's actually odd. I've been seeing less and less of Shen in the top lane. I believe people have started to figure out how to actually land against him, which, with the latest set of nerfs, which were a while ago, it's finally reached a point where Shen is no longer someone you put up in the top lane, and he automatically wins it, just no matter what. So I actually love to see that. And then, an Udyr and Soraka pick coming out. Udyr, not too common. I'd say most likely going to be up in the top lane.
Ooh, no. Really sorry to jump in there. Veggie is going to be playing Udyr in the jungle. And the only reason I got super excited and dove in and very rudely cut you off, he played a godlike man-bear pig yesterday. We watched him playing in another cup, and Veggie's Udyr, he did not miss a flash bear stun. He tower dove with that turtle stance, consistently picking up kills, and it was really well played. So I'm very excited to see if he's going to be able to replicate that success against Moscow 5 this time round.
That is actually really cool then. Jungle Udyr is one of those weird things where he's really good, but he falls out of favor just as the meta shifts, as jungling speeds and timings kind of change up. So I want to see what happens. I'm excited for I'm excited for Veggie on Udyr. He's solid. He's a good player. And if he could make Udyr work like you said before, it'll be really strong. But look at this. Misfortune for Moscow 5. So running a super aggressive bottom lane to go against that Soraka.
We might also see a Nunu being locked in here for Gosu Pepper. Last night we seen a Misfortune and a Nunu combination by Moscow 5, and unfortunately it didn't pay off quite as effectively as they were hoping for. But the healing debuff from those impure shots, it's really effective against Soraka, and if you can reduce the amount of hit points that are healed back, it makes it easier to pick up those kills and get through that sustain.
You can do a lot of cool things with Misfortune against Soraka. My favorite thing I've seen done actually is, just because her DPS is so high early on, When you see Soraka heal somebody, you kill the person who she did not heal. So that armor buff, you ignore it, you just burn down whoever's still there. I've seen some really cool strategies come out, like, for example, my favorite one would be to pick, like, Misfortune against, say, a Grave Soraka lane, maybe Ezreal Soraka, and you just tower dive them when your creep wave is pushed up. And what this lets you do is, you'll get a kill, you will die in the trade though, but they will miss a giant creep wave. There is a lot of things you can do with Misfortune just because she hurts for so much. But, I don't know. I don't know if Moscow 5 will be going for a strategy like that. I could see them doing some pretty cool things.
And of course, picking up Alistar's support is going to help out a lot as well. Keep them in place, headbutt, pulverize, and just allow all that DPS from the impure shots and that attack speed buff just to tear through anybody's hit points.
And Malphite to counter Jax right there, just saying, screw it, we'll pick one of the best Jax counters in the game. Malphite, and I actually really love Malphite against Jax for a few reasons. There's the ground slam to slow his attack speed, and there's the fact that Malphite just doesn't care about farm. Alright, Malphite's behind. He still has Unstoppable Force, he still has ground slam, he still has that slow. Also, he gets a billion armor. Just for free.
A billion armor just for free. I like watching Malphite as well, especially if they're able to pick up a decent unstoppable force. And just as we start talking about that, they're considering taking Darius in that top lane. And I am going to say the name incorrectly. I am going to call him Darian. Is he going to stick with it? And it does look like it is going to be a Darius versus Jax top line. Most likely going to see Shen in the jungle. So let's see in this last minute who's actually going to be swapping around and what matchups we are going to be seeing. But Kassadin and Karthus in the mid lane.
And runes coming into play. Oh, Moscow 5. Why did you not set your runes beforehand? I do like that we have this option now to take a second and fix runes, because going into this game without good runes can really set you far behind. But top lane, I would assume it is going to be Jax in the top lane, just based off history. We could see Shen up there and Jungle Jax actually occurring. Jungle Jax is weird. He's really good at killing blue. He's really good at killing, Baron and Dragon. He is not fast at those normal creeps, though.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time for him to land all those additional auto attacks and build up that attack speed. So that ramp-up process really slows him down quite significantly. But Karthus Kassadin in the middle lane. It's been a long time since I've seen a Kassadin, and it's going to be in the hands of Caliver this time around. What do you think about that? That null sphere popping out the silence, hopefully reducing those lay wastes. I think it could go either way, but I think Kassadin, once he gets a couple of levels, should be able to harass Alexich's Karthus quite significantly.
Kassadin will eventually just be able to spam his null sphere, just go crazy with it, and there's not much Alexich can do in response. So we now have some crazy bans coming out. Here comes a Zillion ban, clearly targeted for AbsoluteLegends' well-known jungle Zillion.
For everybody that is wondering, this is of course a remake, so please do not take that seriously. We do not actually mean a jungle Zillion. But using the full time to their advantage, maybe discussing a little bit about strategy, discussing who do they think they want to send in which lane, or whatever the story is like that.
I don't think they knew they were banning, actually. It's really weird to see teams... Oh, I love this bug.
It is a pain in the butt. Luckily, though, it doesn't affect the start of the game.
Yeah, it does not matter at all.
Touch wood. It hasn't yet, but
okay.
Let's hope that it doesn't. That is the goal anyway.
AbsoluteLegends taking their sweet time to ban, Maybe they are discussing strategies, maybe they're just kind of relaxing. Maybe this is a mind game. Freak out Moscow 5 by just not taking the time to ban. Just using more time, making them just, sit on the edge of their seats.
Yeah, probably running through. My guess is it's just a strategic reason, buying some time. Maybe they're finishing dinner. That could be it as well. AbsoluteLegends, this dinner time around about here in EU, and it looks like the stealth's being removed. Evelyn and Twitch. Dramatic bans here right now.
Talon's still a competitive option. I actually love Talon. The funniest thing I've ever seen in a remake, actually, I think this was Navi who did it. May have not been, so not totally sure. They, just out of instinct, when you remake a game as blind pick, what you normally do is just everybody just picks their character, or if you remake it through draft pick, everybody still picks their own character. Like, you don't do any swaps because
you don't need to.
It's a waste of time, more or less. I want to say it was Citizen Wayne just tried to first pick Anivia, but it was still ranked draft. So he just immediately banned out Anivia like 5 seconds into the game, which was great because that was, their pick. So there came a third remake that time.
Lovely, lovely. Diamond Prox hovers over Skarner for a second or two. And that's a champion we've seen him playing a few times this last week, in fact. He's picked up one or two victories here or there, but for the most part, come out on the losing end of the battle. And I want to see whether or not they're going to pull him out on LAN. That's what I really want to see, is whether or not Diamond Prox is going to pull out Skarner at DreamHack. And what do you think of Skarner in the current metagame? Can he actually fit in?
Skarner is really weird. He's really good at sustained DPS. He has an amazing slow. He has an amazing ultimate. But he has no gap closer besides a move speed boost. And frankly, when you look at Nocturne, when you look at Nautilus, when you look at Alistar with his pulverized headbutt, there are better gap closers, and those gap closers really end up mattering just because of the amazing kite coming out. So, like, looking at actually AbsoluteLegends right now, they can kite with Ashe. They can stop a well-timed Skarner ultimate with Kassadin or Soraka. So there's a lot of control going into the games now, and Skarner just kind of falls to it. He can be good against someone like Nautilus, though, just because he has really good sustained DPS. He can just wail down on Nautilus. But I don't know, man. There's actually a lot of cool junglers that Diamond Prox runs, like Jungle Zenzao. He still does that.
And take a look at Pucky Style. For those of you who may not know, Leet Random, aka Pucky Style, Ghost Flash on Ashe. I mean, that's Season 1 flashbacks all over again. It's been a while since I've seen the double up on the movement and utility summoner spells.
I like this. It's just for the extra kite. It's going to be more focused at kiting Darien than necessarily anybody else on Moscow 5. But Darien's going to be the real trouble for Ashe because Ashe has no good escape mechanism to dodge that leap strike combination. So Pookie Style is going to have to be really aggressive with his kiting, make sure he stays, alive against the Master of Arms.
And mirror images as far as Rune goes for both of our AD carries on the bot lane. But Genja rocking at 19 and 11 in his Masteries pages, opting to take 2 points in Indomitable Bubble. Reduces incoming damage by 2. So slight variation in his Masteries there.
That's actually really cool, because that means he's just going to be aggressive to go ahead and put those 2 points in there. It means he wants to just kick butt this entire game, this entire match. He's going to be just fighting in creeps. And normally, if you get actually Tough Skin and Indomitable, you don't take any damage from melee creeps early on in the game. That is not going to be the case because he only has Indomitable, but that's still greatly reduced damage overall when it comes to the creep wave, which is what that is more aimed at.
And defensive runes and masteries for top lane Jax, and offensive runes and masteries for top lane Darius. Early level, I've seen Darius as having a bit of fun against Jax's. The damage and the DPS from that damage over time of his passive is just so strong. But mid to late game, Jax's tend to come back against Darius. What do you think about the matchup?
Jax is just someone you don't stop. Like, he will eventually just be hard to deal with unless you are like 10-0 against him. So Kiki's on Darius going to have some trouble with that, but they want to pressure early. They want to do a lot of odd pressure. They're trying to just hold off until eventually Pookie Style and Sulliver can just go crazy and destroy with the Kassadin burst with the Ashe Kite. And Udyr and Darius are going to be really good at holding off until that point. Eventually they will just kind of build tanky, I'm expecting, and just kind of be a front line. The question is, will Darien be at a point where he can safely dive Pookie Style, where he can safely get into the enemy team by the time the mid game rolls around? And I think Darien will be able to do it. I think Jax is just going to be a bit too hard to shut down. Who knows, though?
In terms of jungle pressure as well, you've got two junglers that don't have the greatest of gap closers. It's a fairly short-range dash on Shen, of course, and relying on that bare stance movement speed. So there's not actually too much mobility in terms of our lanes either, really. You've got the passive from Misfortune, but no dashes or blinks or anything along these lines. It's quite a strange change from what we're used to seeing with all those mobility movements.
Yeah, I guess the closest thing we have right now is going to be a Leap Strike and, well, a Kassadin Blink, too. So the junglers should actually be able to get in fairly well. Shen's going to have that nice dash, which might be just enough. And if anybody's out of position, we can see Kiki's really punish them, or Udyr really punish them. But I don't know. I think Veggie can get some good ganks off. These are very odd teams compared to what we normally see. There's no Graves, there's no Corki. There was no Janaban, and Soraka and Janna were both not chosen, looking back at some other tournaments. So I don't know. This is very odd. This is very unique, and it kind of shows both teams having their own cool playstyle.
Slight change in, I don't want to use the word meta, but slight change in the standard run-of-the-mill champions that we're seeing. And I'm excited to see it. I also like the fact that we're seeing this before the big land comes up, seeing whether or not these teams are, I don't want to use the word revealing their hands, as it were, but playing slightly different, slightly more unique champions. And if anybody's watching this, it makes you second guess. Who do we ban, going into the LAN? You've only got 3 bans in those group stages, and when you get to the knockout stages, we know what they can play, and now we see what they are playing. It makes you think twice, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is something cool just because not much is revealed here. None of these characters are standard bans except maybe Soraka, maybe Shen, possibly Karthus. So there are a few characters you could ban out, but overall, nothing here is too consistent.
And of course, for everybody that is tuning in and maybe isn't aware, this is, of course, the European qualifier for IPL5. This is the second qualifier, and we are watching Moscow 5 take on Absolute Legends in a best of 3. Whoever wins the overall qualifier will earn themselves a spot at RPL5, and that's what people are playing for. And
I believe, is this semifinals or quarterfinals?
We'll get the admins to let us know, or somebody will let us know on chat if this is semi or quarters. But I'm just busy looking at the moment, and it seems as though there is a little bit of lag on the stream, so I'm going to quickly investigate that and see what's happening.
Okay. And something going on, by the way, we have a ward off by Darian. I actually really like this ward for Moscow 5 because they saw it go down. Darian wants to find a way to get out of that bush without being spotted, actually. But they know that any gank from that area will not be successful until about the 4-minute mark. So Moscow 5 will just either go from a different angle, or maybe even go through the enemy jungle. But they now know where the ward is. They now know where Absolute Legends thinks they're safe. They can exploit it. It'd actually be a really cool gank if they went through the enemy jungle down to mid lane, because you normally don't see that. But it'd be a great way to catch Sulliver off guard.
Now, I sadly missed a lot of the matches from MLG over the last weekend. Was there a lot of early game invasion that we tend to see from the US sides, or have seen from the US sides in the past?
Early on, I'd say there was a lot of invasion as the games got closer and closer. People just got more cautious, so we stopped seeing the invasions come in. The last game actually did have an invasion. Like, the very last game of the entire tournament did have one go down. But people just have gotten more cautious. They know that any bush can be insta-death, even if they have a good level 1 team. Even if you have an Alistar, if you instantly blow up Alistar, well, he can't cast a spell.
And take a look at the setups at the moment.
Lanes.
We see Genja going into the mid lane against Caliver's Kassadin. And we see Alexic going bot line as Karthus and Alistair against Soraka Ashe.
I like this. I like this a lot. The clear idea there is Genja can just kill Sulliver. Like, there's nothing Sulliver can do to farm safely, just because Misfortune will do a ton of damage. And bot lane, Karthus should be able to farm pretty safely against Ashe. Like, Ashe is not the strongest early game character. She can be punished for that. Normally you see someone like Corki can really do a lot of damage to her. But Alexic might have some trouble, but if he can safely CS, that's all he cares about. And we have gank going up in the top lane.
And we do have a lot of pressure. There goes Veggie. He lands the bear stun stance. Phoenix stance comes out, and a very nice counterattack from Darian. Immediately counteracts that aggression. But we've seen Veggie a couple nights ago playing very, very aggressively, continually pushing that top lane, and when Flash is available, Flash into bear stun, and ended up picking up several kills. So we'll have to see if he can pick it up the next time round.
I feel in a way he didn't necessarily even want to get that kill. Like, yeah, of course, if he could have, it would have been nice, but that was just a bit of pressure, some extra damage going on, and Kiki is actually heading towards that mid lane. A 3-man gank going down.
Alright, well, do me a favor. I have it on directed camera at the moment, so you're not going to miss any of this action.
Well, 1 second, actually. We have a 3-man gank. Here's a flash stun like you talked about. Genja flashes away, dodges the pull. Here comes Diamondprox to try and support, actually. Can he get a taunt off to protect Genja? No, Genja will go down to the dots. Diamondprox running away for his life, but an awesome 3-man gank going on right now just to go ahead and stop Genja in the mid lane. Let Sulliver get some pressure, or get some farm, get something. And if Sulliver comes back, if he gets enough levels, he will eventually be able to pressure down Genja himself. The heal not burned by Genja, I actually kind of like that decision. He was most likely going to die anyways, so by not burning the heal, he still has that cooldown. I mean, maybe he could have made it out, but that would have required Diamondprox to possibly blow his flash too, and he would still be in a very gankable situation. But overall, good exploitation of the misfortune man, not having those escapes, not having that CC to really stop anybody from chasing him down. Let's see, up in the top lane we have Kiki's just trying to pressure Darian a bit. We actually have Veggie going in for the aggression again. Oh, Darian actually going in, uses his Leaf Strike, uses Counter Strike, does do some damage, but right now it's a 2v1. He's in a bad situation. He has to try and get out of this situation. He just goes down. Moscow 5. They're down 2 kills 5 minutes in the game. One of those was a pretty good gank in the mid lane with Kiki's coming down from top. But Udyr there, that was a pretty standard gank. That was nothing special. And the goal difference now, 1,000, 5 minutes in the game. Pretty significant. Not the end of the world, but the farm that will be denied in that top lane, the farm that Kiki's will get, as actually Darian might actually catch some of it. It's not looking great. It's not the end of the game, but still Moscow 5 slipping up quite a bit, and Genja taking a lot of damage mid now from Sulliver's harass, but still getting much more farm.
I am busy investigating the cause of the lag, guys. I am very, very sorry about that. I have no idea what's causing it. I've double-checked my line at the moment, and I cannot see any other... there's no one else on the line, so... as far as the game is concerned and latency and everything, it's perfectly fine on the client end. I just need to figure out why my upload is struggling at the moment.
Oh, is this the whole stream lagging, or is it just like audio, or me?
From what chat is saying, it looks like it's a graphical-related issue. So it's on the streamers in my end. Apparently audio is fine. So 2-0 at the moment in favor of AbsoluteLegends.
It's looking pretty scary right now for Moscow 5, just because they're falling to easier ganks. They had this cool strategy at the beginning, but that gank mid, that gank top, those didn't really need to be successful, especially that gank top. That should not have happened.
I do apologize. I'm just busy trying to do the technical things. Apparently audio is 100% fine, but video is lagging. So while directed camera is on studio, you keep running with this one. I'm going to see if I can resolve this matter.
Okay, I will just go ahead. Keep on commenting through this. So if you cannot hear the graphics, my lovely voice will be trying to guide you through this. In the bot lane, some pressure actually coming out from Alex and Ghost Pepper. They did burn Ignite earlier. They did try and get Pookie style low, who's elite random, and was not quite successful. A lot of damage actually coming out. They're going to take a lot of pressure here. This should not be a kill because Ashe does not have her ult yet. And she's actually just going to back up and farm. So lanes right now, they're not doing well for Moscow 5. The advantage is nice at mid lane. We do have 42 CS on Genja versus 31 on Sulliver. But still, this should be a bigger difference. That should be a much larger lead because frankly, Sulliver is going to be very scary once he starts getting that gank potential. And Genja, I mean, misfortune does fall off. She does not have the same dramatic ult that someone like Annie or Ari would have in that mid lane.
Alright, I do also just have word, guys. It is actually an issue with the twitch.tv server. The fact that you're hearing audio 100% and that it's video lagging means it's the relay between myself, Twitch, and you guys. Admins, can you guys give me a message on Skype there? Can I reboot the stream with just a different server selected? Let me guys know. I suppose I have to do that actually instead of leaving with a shoddy server. But I just want to get heads up from them before I do that.
We could do a radio style commentary, but I don't know if Liga is ready to hit the FM style airwaves yet.
I tell you what I'm going to do, guys. Unfortunately, the lag is completely terrible, so I am going to restart the stream, select a different server, and we'll see if we can resolve that. So give me 2 minutes, guys, and we'll be right. There we go.
We got to do a sync up, actually. Wait, have you hit play already?
Yes, I have just hit play. So 8:31, 8:32. Requiem has gone out.
Okay. And we should be synced up now.
And I'm just watching the stream. It looks as though the stream is running a little bit smoother. And there we go. So that is the problem resolved. Once again, I do apologize to absolutely everybody. This was an error on the Twitch TV side. It was between the PC and the Twitch TV server. So, are we going to just run through this live? I'm at 9 minutes, studio.
1 second behind you. Let me catch up. Okay.
Great,
so,
great.
We're good.
So what did I miss? What did I miss? 2 kills to 0 at the moment. Moscow 5 on the back foot.
Moscow 5 having a lot of trouble with their lane setup. We had Darian go down in the top lane to what was really a bad placement on his part. He engaged at a bad time. We had Veggie coming up out of the jungle, or out of the river.
We do see Gosu Pepper. He runs straight into a 2-man AbsoluteLegends. Eats an enchanted crystal arrow to the face. Ignite, Null Sphere, Force Pulse all going down, and another kill going the way of AL.
And they should actually be able to pick up this dragon now, especially because Shen is not in that jungle. And this is just looking worse and worse for Moscow 5. They're not playing well. Their map presence is just not there. Like we had right there, Ghost Pepper just out of position. Kikis actually takes a lot of damage in this top lane. Oh, gets away.
And I do just want to say mad props to Mr. Forecourt Jester. Thank you, good sir. He was the technical advice man in the background. Let me know what the cause of the problem was. And we do see now Darien pushing onto Kickers, thinking about a tower dive, but opting not to go. Now Kickers flashes forward. There goes the might coming out from Darien. Ultimate's used as well as Wish. And Kickers picks up a kill in relative easy fashion, in fact.
He did blow his flash, but frankly, I mean, just look how well AbsoluteLegends is playing. They're dismantling Moscow 5. They're getting kills across the map. They've taken Dragon. The lane swaps going on for Moscow 5 have not paid out. But though I guess 79 CS on Misfortune versus 44 on Cassidy is pretty good. But they're just not doing as well as they should be. It's just some mistakes going down. They do have Misfortune up in the top lane now, which should hopefully counter Kikis a bit. But I don't know. I feel that right now, Solivar will eventually be able to roam pretty much non-stop. And with the way that Moscow 5 has been handling ganks, they've been dying way too much.
And take a look at Veggie once again. 1-0-2. I know I mentioned and I was singing his praises right at the beginning of the game. And that very first gank didn't pay off, but the following 3 obviously did.
Yeah, he's been getting kills. And Moscow 5, I don't know if they're just not used to playing against an Uter because it has been quite a while. But he does have that really... He's really good at punishing someone who's out of position. Because you can't get away from Barry's stance, he just moves too quickly. But with the way Moscow 5 has been playing, they've been out of position. They've been too far away from their tower where they can't leap strike back, where they can't walk back to the tower, and they're getting punished for it. So this is really good play coming out from AbsoluteLegends, and mistakes being exploited by Moscow 5.
Now, what do you think about the playstyle? I've missed, unfortunately I wasn't focusing on the individual plays, but do you think this little lane swap and this little change is an experiment before a big LAN, you know, leading up to the weekend, or do you think that they genuinely thought this was going to pay off?
This is something you have experimented with. Like, we've seen this before, and I like it. It's a cool idea, but I think they haven't quite fleshed this out. So I think this was actually expected to do well, but they haven't quite fleshed out the idea. Genja needs to play a little safer in that mid lane, and it's just some mid lane inexperience coming in here. Alex Hitch, oh, we actually have Diamond Procs being caught out, dashes away, but it's just inexperience from Genja in that mid lane. He's not a mid laner.
Yeah, not used to playing against other mid laners, and obviously sticking Misfortune at the early levels is going to have a fair amount of fun, I suppose, being able to land all those auto attacks. But now that Cassidy's got a couple levels under his belt, maxed out that null sphere, it's going to be hitting really hard.
And the sustain from Misfortune is decent. She does have 3 Doran's plays, but like, they missed their window. They missed the window where Misfortune could just instantly kill Cassidy and he could not do anything except maybe get experience. I think actually it's the gank potential of that mid lane. So mid lane is the easiest lane in the game to gank because there are about 8 different ways to approach the lane. Some of them are a bit funky, like flashing through Wraiths, for example, but you can get in there from almost any angle. You have to have some great game sense to not die there. And when you do not like play perfectly, it's so easy to exploit your positioning and get a kill, or to zone you out. So it's just some inexperience right there, and Moscow 5, they want to do this. Genja needs to have that experience.
And we do see now pressure onto Elite Random, the Wall of Pain, and not managing to apply too much of a slow. Gosu Pepper now, pressure's been turned around. Elite Random pushing further and further forward. And we see Cassidy snuck into the bush. He's going to be revealed by that little creep, so they'll know he's there, I'm pretty sure. And it doesn't look like Moscow 5 are going to fall for this one. And now we see, so much rotation, so much movement from these players, constantly changing lanes. We see Darien now holding up this middle lane. Are we going to see a potential dive from Veggie? Flash is available, and very wise from Genja. He immediately backs off. That game is Sixth Sense telling him something's happening, and we do see Caliver poking a little bit against Diamond Procs, but nothing really coming of that little engagement.
Silver is really trying to get something done in terms of kills just because he did get zoned out in terms of farm, but he's not being too successful. He does have that gold from the earlier kill and the dragon, and Darien actually being spotted by this ward.
Null Sphere does land onto Darien. Does a decent chunk of hit points, actually. 300 already at this point in the game without really any ability power items on Cassidy. In terms of farm, 66 to the 109 of Genja. That's a huge difference, but if we compare it even to his effective counterpart, Karthus 109, Kelever very far behind. The Ash Arrow does land onto Genja. Very, very nice Rifthawk, Null Sphere, and Force Pulse tossed out. Now all of a sudden, Moscow 5 turn the attention. A very nice Shadow Dash taunt is going to dive forward. Requiem in the background is going to deal huge, huge damage. He's going to at least deal enough DPS to secure a kill for Darien. And in the end, the 1-for-1 exchange. 1 kill for Jax, 1 kill for
a great exchange, though.
Cass.
They took out Oracles.
Yep, so 400 gold. Yep, 400 gold removed.
That was a really weird dive from Absolute Legends. They dove onto a team with Alistar and Shen. That's just normally something you don't do. So a bit of a misplay there. Karthus wasn't there, and that was the only saving grace, but Karthus not being in a fight doesn't mean Karthus isn't going to be in that fight. So just an overplay actually coming in from Absolute Legends. They didn't need to do that. They gave up an Oracles for really no reason.
Yeah, a little bit of overcommitment there ended up costing them. So 1-for-1, it's not, I don't want to say it's good, but the kill did land in Kelever's lap though. And Mr. Castaner, who's falling behind on Fob, every little bit of gold is going to help. He's now looking towards finishing that Catalyst, the Protector.
He is only about 100 gold behind Genja right now, and that's actually something funny about Cassidy. He never gets farm. Like, you never see a Cassidy do well in farm, and if he does do well in farm, oh my god, he will destroy that game. But his CS is always far behind. He is not an easy character to CS on. The best you can do early on is Null Sphere. Eventually you can start using Force Pulses, but frankly, it's so easy to zone out Cassidy, and all he can do is kind of poke back. So, like, you don't normally see high farm on Cassidy, and he still does well. So this isn't a case where I'd say having bad farm on Cassidy is a huge problem, but he is actually keeping him decently in farm himself, just because of the kills.
Yeah, we'll keep him in the goal difference, I suppose. But now, what do you think about the scaling? I mean, you know, Karthus is obviously going to get stronger and stronger and stronger as the game goes on. Kelever's going to be able to deal pretty decent damage himself, but Karthus, Rod of Ages completed, currently sitting on 600 gold in the bank. Is he going to have a bigger effect on these team fights than, you know, the single target nuke that Cassidy can put down?
I think combined with some good Ash ults, they have the potential just to blow one person up and back off on Absolute Legends. That's what they want to do. Preferably Alex Ich. If they can get Alex Ich out of a fight early, that'll be amazing for them. But for the most part, we're just going to see some good pokes coming out, just using an Ash ult, a Q, Force Pulse combo, blow someone up, get out. And if they can do that well, if they can just poke in, poke out, dive in, dive out, they can get a lot of work done and eventually just have a huge lead and can just straight up win a fight later on. But the team fight presence isn't that great for Absolute Legends, actually.
Yeah, they don't really have huge meat shields to be able to sustain a lot of DPS or a lot of damage. And take a look at something else. 5-1 in terms of kills. The first dragon has already gone down. This is, I believe, the second one. But there's only 1,000 gold in it, which is small numbers right now. Gosu Pepper moves forward. There goes the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. That manages to land on Darren in the background. A great Pulverize. Knocks up 3 from Gosu Pepper. Now they've turned their attention to the fight. Counterattack is going to lock up only Kickers. Nobody's died just yet, and he may end up being the first one to go down. Before he does, though, he takes Alexich with him. Requiem is going to pick up at least 1 kill. Now Moscow 5 trying to decide on their next target. Kelever keeping himself in this one, trying to pick up a kill onto Darien. Will make it to get the tick. I think that was with Ignite, actually. One Vorpal Blade from Diamond Prox. He's going to be trying to jump away. And now Genja really wants this kill onto Pucky Style. Looks like Kelever may be able to actually get away with those Rift Walks. And not a bad fight overall. 2-for-2 exchange, but once again, kill and assist going to Kelever.
Selhavet really trying to get out of there. Possibly the best position I've ever seen a blue pill. And Alex Ich will actually be able to respawn and stop him in time.
Or not.
No. And actually, bot lane, we actually have Ghost Pepper almost killing Pookie Style. Pookie Style actually trying to turn this around.
Maybe able to do it. There goes the Stand United from Shen, who is just at the Dragon buff. He's going to turn around, and at least Moscow 5 will pick Drake up out of that one. So that was a bit of an interesting one. But he managed to save Gosu Pepper's life, and they managed to secure a Dragon with that one. So great use of the ultimate overall.
And with that Dragon objective down, they also blew Pookie Style's Flash. So I'd say Stand United is not a cooldown you want to just kind of waste, but getting a Flash out of that is a nice trade. I don't know. I feel that right now, Absolute Legends did not need to get into that team fight. They can't really team fight that well. Their team fight presence isn't there. They don't have, say, Shen. They don't have Alistar or Karthus. They don't have team fight champions. They have Cassidy. They have Assassins. So they're playing with this strategy. Actually, we have that dive in the mid.
Yeah, because he was looking to set something up. Took 1 tower hit and then effectively walked away. But so you think we're going to see a hit and run playstyle for the remainder of this game? Can they hold out the longer the game goes? You know, once we hit 30, 40, 45 minutes, that hit and run is just going to become less and less effective.
Yes and no. The cool part is eventually Chasm's burst will just kill someone, but they have to get that far first. And right now they've been having a lot of trouble. They're not playing their team to its potential. They're not playing their team as a hit-and-run team, and they're trying to just team fight, but they're not that far ahead. They're only ahead 500 gold right now, and they're acting like they're farther ahead. I think they might be deceived by the kills.
Yeah. Now the thing with this bottom lane as well, I don't know if you noticed it, Alexic and Pakistal had a little bit of an engagement. Alexic landed a great wall of pain and just followed up with a few lay wastes, and Paki was actually forced to throw that crystal arrow out just to save his own life. So already the Rod of Ages, Sorcerer's Shoes, and almost enough gold for that needlessly large rod. Requiem and those lay wastes are going to start hitting really, really hard. 170 CS, highest on the map by 30 at least. And we see Caliber being caught out, manages to rift walk away though.
That was kind of silly. It's kind of like he rift walked into the bushes like, hey guys, what's up? I have to leave right now.
Rift walk in and run away. That's the new strat. That's the new strat. Veggie now actually running away from Genja, not willing to take that fight. Genja with the BF Sword Triple Dorans, putting some decent damage down. And then attack speed buff from Impure Shots is going to help with the DPS as well.
Misfortune hurts. Misfortune does a lot of damage. She doesn't have quite the burst that, say, Graves does, but in a sustained fight, she will be incredibly effective. So, I don't know. I just feel that the more that Absolute Legends commits to fights, the worse it's going to be for them.
So we've seen 2 dragons going down. Who picked up the first drake? I missed that one. Second one
That
to Moscow
was
5.
Absolute Legends.
So 1-for-1 in terms of dragons. Towers 1-0. Kickus taking a lot of damage from Darien. Still staying in this fight though. Ignite has been burned. Caliber though has his ultimate and he has Ignite up. So if he decides to commit to this fight, he may be able to do something, but he's super, super low.
They might actually try and bait with the Soraka ultimate.
Wish is available. Wish heals. What's it healing for at the moment? 220 hit points, so that is going to help a lot, but Kikis doesn't really want to stick around. Sullivan moved up to the top lane. He landed that Force Pulse in the Null Sphere, but Darren just immediately backed off. He wasn't staying longer than he needed to. And the game's become passive. The game's become really, really passive now. It started off super, super aggressively for those first 12 minutes. And in the last 8 or so minutes, it's just been that single standoff, that single fight. Neither team wanting to overcommit or make another mistake.
And it's actually really odd to see it's coming out from Absolute Legends style just because they had that good early game. I think they got scared. I think they got very nervous because they started losing team fights, and they feel if they commit to any sort of engagement right now, they will lose that trade. So what used to be kind of, their lanes winning in their favor is now just become sort of passive. And if you've seen their lanes, they're not winning their lanes. Oops, sorry about that. We have Alexic in that bot lane pressuring like crazy, doing so much damage to Pookie style every time he pokes out. Toss down a wall, toss down lane waste, and you chunk him. And this goes for top lane with Darien against Kiki. So what were some good early lanes are just kind of collapsing at this point. And that's really hurting Absolute Legends, actually. They need to be very careful about that. They can't let this just laning style keep going on because they're not doing well at it.
And how does the goal difference actually shape up now? You mentioned that they pretty much lost their lane. 6,800 Alexic's Karthus to 6,100 on Seliver's Cassidon. So not too bad there of a difference. Top lane 6-3 to 6-5. Carries are sitting on 6-3 as well against 5-6. So Ash, the only one that's a little bit further behind for Absolute Legends. And overall, though, the numbers, it's even. It's going to come down to positioning. It's going to come down to who gets caught out. And a nice little juke there from Pokestyle, actually, dodging some of those lay wastes.
You know what they say, it's not the goal in your pocket, it's how you use it. And right now, Absolute Legends has just been using it very offensively for team fights, and it hasn't really worked out. They've been going 2 for 2 when M5 was behind, and then M5 picked up Dragon afterwards, so kind of sloppy.
Yeah, little mistakes here and there. Now Moscow 5 actually take the lead in gold for the first time in the match. No towers just yet. Headbutt to send Veggie as far away as possible. And I'm not quite sure that the thinking is for Veggie. He's floating around in this middle lane, acting a little bit AFK, maybe trying to play a baiting role potentially.
I think he is the Secret Service agent for Celabar in that mid lane. But he can't be in every lane right now, and that's actually really hurting him. Just because, Celabar, or not Celabar, but Veggie does not have teleport on a 5-second cooldown. Because bot lane, it's tricky for Pokestyle because of Alex Itch. Top lane, Darien is just kind of killing Kikis now. Like, the pressure is there. If Kikis engages Darien just kills him.
And that's pretty much the way it goes. Darius, he really needs to start snowballing early on to run away with the lane. And if you look at stats-wise, he's actually not doing bad. 3-1-3. Well, nice little aggression there from Darian. But, Darian 2-4-1. Trinity Force completed 172 CS. Jax hits super, super hard. And the longer this game goes on, the scarier he's going to become. And I feel the less scary Darius is going to become. He's fairly squishy as a champion. Yes, he's got very good burst, but I just think Jax is the superior champion if you're going to be committing top lane. And we do see the Crystal Arrow going down. Rift Walk into Null Sphere and the Force Pulse. Now the Stand United has been used. Alexis is committed to this fight with that flash, and Defile is out. In conjunction, we see Bullet Time in the background. The first one to goes down will be Saliver in the background. Ignite is going to tick off onto Absolute Legends, and this fight has gone horribly, horribly wrong.
The cards are still being used because I don't think they know how much HP Kiki's has. But, yeah, it's just a bad engagement coming in time and time again from Absolute Legends. They're not playing their team well, and they've fallen behind in lanes, they've fallen behind in farm. Look at the CS. Look at that 161 CS on Ashe. That's the highest on the game, or on the team.
Yeah.
So 161 versus 172, which is the third highest on Moscow 5. So the highest farm for AL is below the third highest for Moscow 5, and that's just kind of built up. Their lanes, they started going downhill, they were not able to keep up across the map, and they've suffered for it. So they had this great early game start. I was really scared for Moscow 5, but they were able to farm up their lanes, they were able to really come back in full force, and now there's a 4,000 gold difference. And something cool that I've heard before is, when a team gets ahead early game and they eventually fall behind mid game, they keep falling behind because there is something wrong with what their composition is, with what they're doing. There is a mistake, and they have to overcome it. The other team was able to exploit it and come back in. Now it's up to Absolute Legends to fix their mistake and exploit Moscow 5, but I don't see that happening, frankly.
Yeah, the thing you mentioned a little bit earlier on was that hit and run playstyle, or that pick a target, blow him up, and then move, run back. They didn't blow Darian up, and you're not going to blow a Jax up very, very easily. So the second he was able to survive, they managed to get the Stand United on him, and a very aggressive flash forward from Alexic, plus the Shadow Dash taunt from Diamond Prox. It just cost them. They cannot survive those stand-up fights, and I think that's the third or the fourth consecutive fight in a row in which they've tried to force the playstyle, and it's just not going to work. They really need to change it up, because they can. If they catch Misfortune, if they catch Karthus, blow them up and run backwards, then push down some towers or take Dragon. That's what they need to try to do. But it's very difficult when you consider Jack, Shen, and Alistair are all three very big, very daunting meat shields in the way.
Of course, all of them have great protection, especially Shen. So, I mean, it's not that Absolute Legends is just messing up. Moscow 5 is playing really well now. They've really come together after what was a bad laning phase for them. Eventually transitioning into a good laning phase, actually. Oh my god, Pookie style.
Yeah, so much trouble. Ash Arrow does come out. One more lay waste, if that had hit. That plus Requiem, maybe. Although Wish was available, so maybe not a kill, but nice pressure. It may end up costing this tower now. Yeah, Infinity Edge and Zeal. Genji's just going to be able to nom. Third tower, so all front towers are now down for Absolute Legends, and it's going to allow Moscow 5 to roam and, push where they really want to, as much as they would like to. And look at the vision wards at the moment. 3 points around the blue buff and around Dragon for Absolute Legends. And very little wards actually on behalf of Moscow 5. Their vision isn't the greatest.
Moscow 5 is pretty unique about that. They actually really kind of skimp on the wards. We can always insult Gosu Pepper and say he's just selfish, but frankly, I think it just kind of fits their playstyle. Like, they just kind of do what works for them.
Yeah, they roam themselves. I think their communication is very, very good as well.
They have some of the best communication. It's actually really cool. But
Spider-Man's sixth senses. I've seen them so many times just falling back. How did they know somebody was there? There was no wards. There was no reason for them to know how to fall back, but they do. So I suppose that's why they're the pro players and we're casting them.
There's a lot of cool communication tricks you can do. For example, let's say you see someone go back to base, and assume it takes them 3 seconds to buy. If you know their timings to show up to mid lane, to top lane, to bot lane, you can go ahead and say, alright, it's been X seconds, he's not in mid lane, watch out other lanes. So there's a lot of really cool game sense that will eventually develop, and just lots of really actually just technical and difficult knowledge to remember in game. So when you see 5 people playing well together, all of a sudden those small details just have so much more information in them. If someone disappears from mid, you know how long it will take for them to get to bot lane. If it takes 25 seconds and you time it out appropriately, you can have a very safe bot lane for those 25 seconds. And I don't know, it's like a different level of communication, and Moscow 5 does use that quite a bit. They talk a lot, and that's something really good about them. They are good players, and they could play well as a team, which is so cool.
And we do see Kickers being caught out here. There goes the Pulverize. Very nicely done. Flashes away, but a very aggressive flash from Gosu Pepper. It's going to hold him in place for a few seconds. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes out, lands smack bang onto the head of Darien. It's effectively going to cancel the initiation. A nice silence there from Super Ace. That prevents the Leap Strike, but while that's going on, Veggie is playing aggressively in the bottom lane. Look at the damage onto Alexic. Now they've committed to the fight. Kickers gets blown up before anybody else from Absolute Legends can jump in there. And on one, very, very quick kill. Here comes Requiem out. That's going to deal a chunk of damage down. Again, just going to seal off the kill. Darren actually flashes forward. I think he was hoping to land that counterattack, but unfortunately didn't actually take place. And now Gosu Pepper, and Indomitable Will is not up. He does give away a kill from Lead Random, or to Lead Random. But look at the damage down onto Bucky Star. Huge, huge burst. Son of us going to get melted as well. And it's just, the longer the fights go, the less effective Absolute Legends are, and Moscow 5 just effectively doing what they want when they want to.
I mean, look at the sustained damage on Moscow 5. Misfortune, Jax, Karthus, and the only person who died there was Alistar, so the only damage they got out of that fight was the cow damage. The cow damage isn't exactly high. So I don't know, I feel this was an interesting composition coming out from Absolute Legends. A very hit and run style is what they should be going for, using Udyr and Darius mostly to zone rather than to actually engage. But it's not how they played it. And clearly you can see just a stronger team composition in Moscow 5. They engaged the fights while behind, and they came out at equal. But now that they're ahead, they're coming out, 3 for 1, 4 for 1, 4 for nothing actually in one of the earlier fights. And there's not really much that Moscow 5 can do to stop them, or not Moscow 5, Absolute Legends, unless they do this.
Yeah, we do see the Crystal Arrow. That is going to land into Darien. Diamond Prox is hanging around, waiting for the Leap Strike. That is going to be enough. Now the counterattack may be able to deal the damage from Baron. Is Baron going to be able to pick it up? No! Darien manages to get away by the skin of his teeth. And the heel of Gosu Pepper there. But, it's exactly like you said, the hit and run style just hasn't really been successful, hasn't been pulled off from Absolute Legends. And miscommunication in that previous fight. We've seen Veggie very overcommitted with Udyr. He was going in 1v5 and just was not able to actually pick anything up. And you see Baron is still going down. Now the engagement has begun. Baron is still bashing away onto Absolute Legends. Pulverize is going to knock everybody up, and Baron is going to be helping Moscow 5. There's a triple kill, double kill so far for Genja. Okay, so 2 doubles actually. And the last one goes to Gosu Pepper. They managed to pick up the Dune Worm in the background. And an ace for Moscow 5.
Yeah. That was it.
It's like, there's not a lot you can say. They casually walked in, put the damage down. Baron was doing his part from the background. And yeah, look at Alexic. He's sitting with a Magi Soul Steel and 7 stacks.
I'm gonna be honest, Quick Shot. You didn't sound excited for that ace, and I could totally see why. They just kind of killed them.
Yeah, I normally you get amped in the team fights, and unfortunately, it's hard to get excited when they literally walked in, shook their hands, and then executed them one by one in conjunction with Baron Nashor in the background. So that Moscow 5 pick up a great
worst
victory.
Positioning I've ever seen at a Baron fight, actually. I cannot imagine worse, but they just sat there and tanked Baron. They just took his damage, and Baron with his debuff just increased Alexic's damage by a ton, and my god, alright, Absolute Legends, I like you guys. XHCL is good, AL is good, play better next game. They messed up their composition, they messed up their fights like crazy, and they just need to play a better game.
So great play. There's 0-0-13 on Diamond Prox, guys. We are going to be jumping into game number 2. This is a best of 3, but before we do that, we do have to have a very short advert break.